Hey guys, this is Prashant Kulkarni from Pixtenic Studios, and today we are just going to be talking about the post processing of the image that we shot earlier, which is the Axe deodorant, right? So let's dive straight in. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back in a moment. Hey guys, welcome back. So as I was saying earlier, we'll do some post-processing of the images that we took earlier, and this will basically be a composite. So this is basically the image of the Axe deodorant which we took with a single flash, right? So let's quickly get going. What we're going to be doing is first, I've selected some of those images based on what I felt would be good. So now that I've selected them, the first thing is the only thing that I generally do in Lightroom is really just the white balance, right? So I know that it should be somewhere around 5500. So I'm going to set it to 5500. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so and I'm going to copy that, and in fact for all the files I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to be setting it at 5500 so that the temperature remains at that, a little bit warmer. Otherwise it's too cool and I don't like that. So and then if we need to change the temperature to more warmer at a later stage, we can always do that. But for now, I'm setting it at 5500, and then yeah, it does look a little bit at 5500. It does look a little bit cool on my PC. So let's yeah, I mean we can always change it back later in terms of the color temperature, right? So I select all of them and then right click, edit and open as layers in Photoshop. So this basically helps us to it's a sort of a shortcut. Instead of opening multiple files and then duplicating layers, this is a great option in Lightroom, which basically allows you to open all the files as a single image, and it imports all the files into the into Photoshop, right? So let's get started. While it imports, it may take another 5-10 seconds, so let's wait for it, and then let's get started. Okay, so here it is. It has basically, let me just close this. Okay, so here it is. All the files are here. Now, the first and foremost that I'm going to do is basically create a group. So Command G or Control G in Windows. Mostly I'm going to be talking about Mac because I'm using Mac, but then the difference is instead of Command you use Control in Windows, right? So pretty much. And then I'm going to duplicate this by hitting Command J, right? So I get this is to ensure that I don't touch the original files, and if I need them again, then I have a copy right here. I don't have to import them again, right? So so quickly, the first and foremost thing that I'm going to be doing is basically selecting, the one thing that I want to do is basically select the product, right? So in order for me to select the product, let me just see which one it would be a good one, two. I think this would probably be a good example, or this one, yeah. So this one would be a good example of selecting the product. So I'm going to try different methods just to show you that there are different methods. So first and foremost, I'm going to select let's see, yeah, magic wand tool, right? So magic wand tool, I just select and I drag. Well, that's not very good, right? So again, doesn't really help. Let's see. No, no, this is not helping at all. Absolutely not, right? So then we have what we call as object selection tool. So let's see if this works, um, and see how accurately it works. I think it's pretty accurate, um, but as you can see, it hasn't selected here. But that is something that we can try using now using the magic wand tool. Let's see if we can select it, right? So let's bring this down, caps lock off. Okay. Sorry, quick selection tool. Let's use a quick selection tool. So this is the quick selection tool. Right now, as you can see, it's on plus that you can see at the center, right? Now, if I hit I think it's the R button, it becomes minus. You can see the difference, and basically that's what it does is here. When you have the plus, basically it adds to the existing selection. If you select the minus, then it removes from the existing selection. And if you use the first one, then it just removes this selection and starts a new selection. So be very careful about that. Okay. So using the plus, and I'm going to use a smaller brush just so that I don't select too much or something that I don't want. Yeah, I think that selection is pretty okay here. Okay. And then I do have some issues out here. Let's zoom in. No, I think it's pretty okay. Okay, so this is all a mess up, right? The best option, so as you can see, what happens is it's not very efficient, right? I have to do plus, I have to do minus, a lot of stuff, a lot of time, and especially if it's a complex product, then it basically takes a lot of time doing this way, right? So basically, that is why I generally don't use this. I prefer using my pen tool. Okay, so this was one option. So I'm going to do a command D, which will deselect it. Now let's try one other option, which is basically if you go to select and then if you click on subject, let's see what happens. Does it select it? And how accurately does it select it? I think it's pretty accurate compared to earlier. As you can see, it's pretty accurate, but I still don't like it. There are too many jagged edges, etc. Again, this piece, of course, it has not been able to select properly. And then here, I don't like the fact that it's going haywire all the way, right? So sometimes it's okay, sometimes it's not. So I'll just hit the command D again, and then now we're going to use a pen tool. This takes a little bit of time initially, but then gives you a perfect cutout. Selection, etc. So let's get going, right? So quickly now here, what I'm going to be doing is going to be just showing the overall. So let me see which one makes it easier for me to pick it up, right? I think this image itself is still okay. Okay. So pretty much, select the pen tool and then start using it. Now, I'm not going to be talking about how to use a pen tool because that's something that you'd probably need to learn a little. Learn by yourself. There are a lot of YouTube channels and stuff that talk about how to use it, but really you just click and drag, and then if it's a straight line, just hit the straight one, right? So I'm just doing a rough edit here, not a very smooth one, but I think this should do for me for now. And then when to basically select a point and change the position, you just use the Alt button. So that's how you get the curves, etc., right? So pretty much. Okay, now if you want to move a point, all you need to do is just hit keep the command button pressed, and then hit the keep the command button pressed, and then just move this like this, right? So that's what you do. Now I'm going to probably do a little bit of high speed video here, because this is not something that you want to sit on until I do the complete selection. This is going to take a little bit of time. So pretty much. Okay, so that's it. That's the selection done. I mean, the path cut out. I'm just going to rename this. Okay, and let's rename it as X. Okay, and then right click, make selection. Okay, so that's really it. Now what we're going to do is basically come back here. Now naturally this is too much of a flash, so I don't want so much. Now naturally, this is pretty much at the bottom. So let's start from here and then see what all do we need. Now let's see. Really nothing from this, not much from this. We'll come back to this particular image if we need anything, right? So for now I'll turn it off. Yeah, this one, I like this portion of it, so I'm going to use that. So I'm going to use a brush tool, pretty much a brush tool, and then largely a mask, and then add a mask. Of course, the moment I select and add a mask, it will automatically create that. Now, I don't want that, right? So what I'm going to do is deselect, create the mask for all of these, in fact, because I'll be picking up something or the other on all of these at some point in time, right? And then that's it. Okay. So coming back here and then making the selection, make selection, right click the path and make selection. Yeah, there we are. And I'm on this one. Now by hitting Command I, I'm basically doing a, okay, Command D. Now by hitting Command I, I'm basically doing nothing but making it look dark. So meaning I'm basically telling the layer that don't show me anything unless I paint it white, right? So pretty much, so now I know that it is on the right side, some of the lighting. So what I'll do is go back here, make the selection, and then click OK. And then I'm going to use for now 100% of opacity and 100% of flow, because I just want to see first how it will look when I take the entire thing. So yeah, that's on the right. Now the same thing I'm going to do on the left is basically yeah, so I already have it, but then what I don't want is, so I go Command D, I use this, I hit Command I, and then so between this and this, right? So between this and this, which one do I like? I think this is more more even, So I'm probably going to take this one, right? So I don't need this file. I'm going to do a Command I again, which is basically invert the mask. Paths, make selection. Okay. And then I'm going to basically do the masking here, right? So that gives me a good view of the left side of the product. X. Okay. So I have the right side. So I'll rename this as right and this as left, right? Now, let's move on. I move on to the third one, which is basically, which will give me okay, Command D, Command I. Okay, now what happens if I disable this, right? So let's disable this, and then let's enable this. So what I get is, let me see what happens now. Okay, so it's just the background. So I don't really need that. I'm trying to see where is the center image. I think I might have missed one file, bringing one file into this. Let me just quickly see. This one I don't need. This is not the center. Okay, so I really missed, I think, one file here. So let me quickly go back to Lightroom and find that file. Yeah. I missed this one. Okay. So looks like this is number 38. Let's see if I have 38. Okay, I do have 38. Okay, perfect. So this is the center one. Okay, remove this, and then I should have this. And then here, what I do is basically, again, paint it white out here, right? So I get some light out in the front. Yeah. See the difference? Now, what I'm going to do is, yeah, white. I don't want white, I want black. So I don't want some of the changes that happened here. So I'm going to keep them off. Okay. So I don't want the changes to impact me here, right? So Command Z, Command Z, Command Z, Command Z. Now, the reason why I did that is because I want to make the selection and then do the visibility of 38. So X, Command, Shift, Command I. So basically I'm doing an inverse selection here so that I can delete off anything that could potentially, as you can see here, had come out, right? So I think this is good overall. I like this. So that's what I have. Now, as you can see, the edges aren't that great. So there seems to be some halo around the edges on the right side. Now, do you know why that is? Yes, let's talk about that, right? Though it will go off because the next thing that we're going to be doing is pretty much that, right? So I come back, I select this, make selection again, and then what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be again doing a Command I sorry, Command Z. So basically, right click, mix selection. Before you do the mix selection, let's do a Command I here, and then make selection, right? So make selection. Okay, so now what I do is really, I just want to paint in certain areas. So let's see, I want to paint here. I want this to be white. Now, naturally, I can't see it here because it is at the bottom, right? So I bring it all the way to the top. Okay, now, do you see that what's happened? So it's basically created a huge, okay. So first let's bring this on top. Okay. So white brush, and then now I'm going to reduce the opacity and also the flow, right? Because I want a smooth transition there. So I'm going to select this, right? See this, how it comes up. So that's what I like. So now if you zoom in, you will see that there is no jagged edges or what we were seeing, a halo around the product, right? Now this is what I like. Naturally, the background and stuff, I don't like it so much. So let's see what we can do here. Make selection, okay, and then do a select inverse. So now this gets selected except for the product, right? Now I'm going to increase the file, increase the cursor size, and then I'm just going to paint it in because I do like, see that? I do like I like this effect that has been created due to the lens flare, right? And also the way, and I would prefer to keep some a little bit dark here. So what I'm going to do is do a reverse and then reduce the opacity further and then paint again, right? So it becomes a little more darker on this side. So it gives you that look as if the light is hitting from the other side. Okay, now again, keeping it here, I'm going to do an X. Now naturally it's not that great looking here, so I'm going to make this visible, more visible, right? So okay, now let's do a Command A. Yeah, now without this and with this, right, it's far dramatic, it's far better. Now naturally I need to remove some of the stuff, some of the um, dirt, etc. from here. So let me go ahead, but before I do that, let me first get, so I'm going, now that I have everything composition wise, that I have everything done, I think this is pretty much it how I would like it. Alt Command E, and then so now it basically merges everything in the group into a single layer. And now I select the basically spot healing brush tool, and then I will start working on cleaning the product, right? And what I mean by that, I'll show you not only the product but also the surroundings. So for example, this, right? So and then this. Yeah, that's better. Yeah, maybe I'll just use the clone tool on this one. Oops. Reduce the opacity. Keep in mind that opacity is also pretty important. So yeah, because that gives you. Okay. Yeah, I think that's better. Okay, so pretty much, really, now let's go back to the product. So some of these things we generally remove as part of the cleanup that we do. I prefer a very clean product, so I like to basically keep them clean. So if there's any dirt, any scratches, etc. So for example, this one, right? And this one. So we need to take off that, any dirt or scratches. I mean, generally I did clean the product before I, shot this image. So you'll see less of the dust part of it, but any dents, scratches will still be there. So yeah, pretty much I think it's a clean product by itself. So this is good stuff. Yeah, I think that's really it. Now that we have this image, let's quickly do a couple of more things. Now, naturally, what we will do is, first and foremost, I need to do some brightness contrast adjustment. I know it looks a little cool, so that is something that we want to do, make it look a little warm and stuff, right? So one thing that I for sure want to do is increase some brightness and contrast as well, because that will give the product a different look altogether. Okay, so that's brightness, contrast, and then curves. Let's see if we can do something with curves. Yeah, it's too hot, so I don't want to use this. Yeah, I don't want to use this. I think we're good with what we have. Okay, now let's do one other thing. Color balance, right? So now naturally I want it to look warmer, so I'm going to pull it towards yellow, right? See that? Of course it changes the product color as well, but that's okay, because this is, if you're shooting a real product, you would not do this, but this is more of creative stuff. So I like to take some I do like to take some leeway here. That becomes too yellow, so I don't want to do that. Yeah, just give it a little bit of a warmth. That's it. And then move this a little bit towards red, right? Midtones. Highlights. Let's talk about highlights. Yeah. And then towards yellow, right? Yeah. So that should do for me. And then let's see. I think the colors are pretty okay already. I don't want to, give it too much of, yeah, it becomes sort of magentish. So I don't want to do that. Just improve the color a little bit. But that's okay. So basically, these are some controls that you can play around with based on your own, in terms of how you want your product to look like. So pretty much you can use any of these stuff. Now, naturally, I don't want to use saturation. I'm going to delete that. Really, that's it. Now, the last part to this is, again, I'm going to do a Command G and then Alt Command E or Option Command E. So that gives me the final image, which looks good. Now, a couple of things that I generally like to do before I close. One is naturally, reducing the noise, and two is basically sharpening the image, right? So these are the two things that I generally do at the very end. Now, for that purpose, you can either use this dust and scratches, remove, but this is a pretty okay. As you can see, the number radius is too very high, so I need to cut it down and then reduce threshold as well to 2. Now, what this does is basically if there are any minor scratches, dots, etc. on the surface, it cleans them off. But I don't want to use noise on this one, because reduction of noise on this one, because this is pretty decent without any dust, scratches, or noise otherwise. So I'm pretty okay with it. Now, there are some things here which I'm not liking, so I may want to basically clean them up using, again, the spot healing brush tool, right? So, for example, these here. Yeah, see these are things that will actually go off in when I do the noise reduction, right? And these are generally visible only when you zoom in. They're not otherwise visible. That is why it's important to look at this image at about 100, 200%, whatever. Okay, so as you can see, some of the stuff here which I don't like. Now you see some of this stuff, right? These dots. Now let's go ahead and use noise. So dust and scratches, and then yeah, let's leave it at about 2. Let's preview and see how the product looks like, because I don't want the product to get impacted. Where is the product? Okay. When you're not able to do that, you just click on this and it will come up. So and then reduce this to, so that I know what change is happening, right? So I think this is pretty okay at 4 radius and threshold 5, because it is not really impacting my product much. Maybe reduce it a little bit and then reduce this to 3. So that should do. Okay, now let me just show you the difference between this and this, right? So let's have a look at it. There are still certain things which I don't like here, but then there are quite a few that have already gone, right? The bigger ones have still stayed because we set the threshold too low. So, but then, yeah, the only way to get that cleaned up is really, using the spot healing brush tool. Okay, so I'm not going to be, I'm going to do a fast forward on this one. And then Let's see. Yeah, on this side it's not much, it's not visible much because naturally, you know, okay. So I think that's it. That's really it in terms of what we're going to be doing. So a beautiful image with just one flash, some homemade diffusion material, and then a little bit of Photoshop setup, right? So I think overall it okay. So one other thing, just to ensure that one. So there are a couple of things that we still need to do. One is check if it is straight, and I think it's pretty straight. Just ensure that the product is actually vertically straight. Now, as you can see, it's not really straight. It needs to be tilted a little bit. So we're going to do that now. Let me. Okay. So again, using the crop tool, I am going to be, yeah. So I'm going to tilt this a little bit this way. Yeah, this seems much more better now. So this is how it will be. Okay, there we are. So looks good now. I'll go ahead and remove the guides. Okay, let's check one other thing. I just want to make sure this is straight. Yeah, I think it is pretty straight. Yeah, yeah, pretty straight. Okay, cool. Pretty straight. Okay. So as I was saying, the last thing that we're going to do is basically do the sharpening. So file, sharpen. So I generally, because this is a Sony mirrorless camera with about 45 megapixels. The file is large, so the amount of sharpening that I do is also higher. So, but just look at the image yourself when you're doing it, and then adjust accordingly. Don't go by the numbers here because that depends on the file size, right? So if I remove the preview and if I add the preview, naturally you won't be able to see any difference. But when you zoom in, so oops, yeah, let's keep it at this. And then as we do the sharpening, you will realize, so smart sharpen, yeah, amount is approximately about 200. Yeah, that should be good. Now if I remove the preview, click on OK. It will take a couple of seconds to do the sharpening effect. Okay, and then I will also do a little bit of unsharp mask. These are the two sharpening tools that I generally use on products. So yeah, about that much. That will, yeah, if you'll see the difference now uh, between doing this and not doing it is around these alphabets, etc. That we'll see the difference. But anyways, so I just say about okay, and then we're done. So first and foremost, let's ensure that we save the file. Yeah, so that's it, guys. The final image is this is what is the final image looks like. So guys, if you like it, if you like the video, just feel free to leave your comments, leave subscribe to our channel, and also enable notifications so that you get notified when we upload any new videos.